Welcome to a tale woven with threads of danger, desire, and the supernatural. I'm AC Dawn, your narrator and author of Crystal Clear, a paranormal Halloween novella. I plan to release a chapter each day leading up to All Hallows Eve. Keep in mind, this isn't your typical professionally produced audiobook. It's a personal reading and a chance for you to hear the story as it echoes in the mind of its creator. If you're eager to leap ahead and hear the entire tale, you can follow me on my Ream subscription for free and gain instant access to the full recording. But for now, let us take our first steps into a world where ancient evil stirs and the fate of humanity hangs in the balance. Chapter 4. Do you finally believe me? As incredible as it sounds, I am beginning to think you might be the Vampire King. His command over the dead and his memories had me pretty well convinced, but I still struggled to accept it. I held my hand out. Jason looked at it and quirked an eyebrow in question. If you are who you say you are, show me. Show me how it really happened all those centuries ago, I said and waited for him to take my hand. We don't have time for this, he snapped. We do this my way, or you can find yourself another witch. If my great-great-grandmother sent him to find me, I should see her somewhere in his past. If I did, that would prove to me I was in the presence of a creature almost older than time. This cannot be, Jason growled. You are Adelaide Buckley. We are in the Garden of the Dead. There have been no mistakes. I waited, letting him growl and stew. The longer I spent with him, the less afraid I became. If he'd wanted to harm me, he'd have already done it. Fine, he muttered, and took my hand. As I closed my eyes, he said, I warn you, Adelaide, you are walking into a land of nightmares. Like a movie on fast forward, a blur of images rolled through my mind. Two creatures emerged from the pits of the underworld. Terrifyingly beautiful in their perfection, their eyes held nothing but vacant stares. Pain and hunger and anger swirled in a toxic emotional stew. An undercurrent of excitement and satisfaction ran through the memory, but it didn't belong to the creatures standing before me. They knew nothing beyond their hunger. The sense of pride belonged to their creator, to the master of shadows and the king of the underworld. Lucifer, devil, Satan, Hades, too many names to count, but he had brought forth the monsters known as vampires. This was the birth of the vampire king and queen. Holy goddess. I held my breath as their vacant eyes searched for something, anything to satiate their thirst. Primal need pulsed through them with a vengeance. A visceral pain shot through me, and I almost doubled over under its intensity. It lasted only a moment before another image took its place. The pair of vampires slaughtered an entire village before their bloodlust cooled. Then they turned their attention to creating more vampires, which was even worse than the carnage from the previous memory. The screams of humans turning into monsters, losing their humanity, terrified me. As the memory skipped through my mind, staying just long enough for the horror to sink in, Jason's elation, excitement, and ever-present hunger engulfed me. My head spun as I tried to separate the memory from the emotion. Never had a trip into the past been so visceral. Usually, I saw only the history of an object, a vessel, without emotion. God has helped me. This was far more than I bargained for. As if sensing my struggle, Jason tried to pull his hand away, but I gripped it tighter. I needed to see more. The vampires swept across the land, changing more humans and killing even more. The population swelled, and soon they outnumbered their prey. They turned on each other, and the world plunged into a bloody battle of survival. It was impossible to make sense of the chaos, but I saw the same face, the same beautiful, vicious face of the vampire queen over and over again. She led armies and fought with blinding speed and skill and killed indiscriminately. The scene shifted again. Witches united, and the epic struggle for supremacy began. The history taught to young witches began here with the war. The battles raged, but a memory crowded out the battlefield. Again, the only clear face in the melee was that of the vampire queen. On the edge of my awareness, an image formed. I turned toward it, Jason tried to shield it from me, but he couldn't. His internal struggle between reluctance and desire intrigued me. Desert sands and dry heat chased away the omnipresent gray haze of the previous memory. Every line in this image played out with a crystal clarity. Grief, profound and gut-wrenching, rose as a stunning woman emerged into a garden with a fountain, an oasis in the desert. Her vibrant yellow robes offset her bronzed skin, dark eyes and black hair. Charcoal outlined her eyes, and her lips were painted a brilliant red. "Your Highness." Jason bowed deeply to her as an intense yearning followed by a wave of love swept through me. Whoever this woman was, he'd loved her with all his soul. The woman raised her brows before narrowing her eyes in a look of pure and utter loathing. Jason wrenched his hand out of mine. "Enough of this, witch. We have no time to pursue ancient history. The threat is here, in the present. Tell me, where is my queen to rise?" He gripped my shoulders and gave me a little shake to punctuate his final words. Fear roared back to life and my mouth went dry. Having just witnessed the brutality of vampires, I knew I didn't stand a chance if he attacked. Not that I'd go down without a fight, but I would eventually go down. "Look, Jason, Your Highness? What do I call you?" I demanded, seizing the distraction and buying some time. Even if I hadn't seen my great-great-grandmother, I'd seen enough to believe his claim he was the vampire king. But that was worse than him just being a crazy vampire. If the legend was true, and I had no reason to think it wasn't considering my present circumstances, a bloodthirsty vampire queen was about to rise here in Slaughter Creek, and somehow I was supposed to help him stop it. "I don't care what you call me as long as you tell me the location of the she-devil who is about to unleash hell on earth." Exasperation laced his words. My cell phone played Frank Sinatra's "That Old Black Magic" in my pocket. My mother's ringtone. I sighed. It was past 10, and I was late for the coven gathering. I pulled out the phone, silencing it, and noticed several missed texts from Katie. With a pang of regret, knowing that Katie was bearing the brunt of my mother's interrogation, I focused on more pressing concerns than my mom's control issues and shoved the phone back in my pocket. "Look, I'm really sorry, but I can't help you." I stepped out of his reach, just in case he went full-on vamp. "I can only see the past when I touch things." He pressed his mouth together in a hard, disapproving line. "And you commune with the dead." His expression softened as he stared into the shadows. What a queer twist of fate to give a clairvoyant the powers of hindsight. No matter. He waved his hand as if my lack of foresight was a minor nuisance. "We just have to clear your vision so you can see ahead, as well as behind, in time." I scoffed. "Don't you think my mother hasn't tried? I'm the first Buckley who isn't clairvoyant. But maybe this time Mariana will take the oath." The thought struck me as I turned the legend over in my mind. Maybe I'm supposed to help her see her past. I grasped the possibility, though the woman I'd seen in Jason's memories didn't seem likely to sit down and talk through her anger issues. Why else would my grandmother send you to me? I can assure you Mariana has no intention of swearing an oath of harmony with humanity. My dear, please focus. We must clear this impediment of yours. Jason's voice held a soft, gentle lull that made my mind go fuzzy. I snapped my mental shield up again. "Stop doing that," I growled. I wasn't in the habit of maintaining such vigorous protection around my mind. It was exhausting. My cell phone erupted again. "I'm only trying to help. What is that god-awful noise?" Jason demanded, glaring at me. "It's my cell phone. I was supposed to meet my coven at 10, and my mother is having a hissy fit because I'm late," I answered, fishing the phone out of my pocket. Jason narrowed his eyes at the bright light. "I don't understand half of what you said to me. Put that torch away. I'm used to waking in a new century, and the disorientation that goes with it, but I admit this one has been the most difficult to understand in all my long existence. What is the world coming to when witches are powerless, and the magic in the world is lost in bright lights and loud music?" My temper flared. Powerless? I called the energy of the goddess that flowed through all things. As I coiled it within me, Jason raised his eyebrows and smiled. "I can imagine if the last time your eyes were open was a century ago, there would be a lot to take in. But that's no excuse to be insulting. My apologies, madam. Jason gave me a slight bow, and I released the energy. My mind spun as I tried to think of a way out of our predicament. I can't help you, but maybe my mom or grandmother can. They're both powerful seers. I'll call them. I swept my finger over my phone's screen to wake it up. No. Jason's hand flashed out and snatched my phone. Before I could blink, he crushed it into dust and tossed it away. Damn it! I don't know if insurance covers vampire destruction. A sickening thought gripped me, and it had nothing to do with the price of a new cell phone. If I wasn't able to fulfill the demands of the prophecy, what would the Vampire King do when he accepted that? I knew what he was capable of. When I came up short, would he take his vengeance out on me or my coven? If I could get to my mother, she would know what to do. Jason closed the distance between us. He crowded me back against the headstone. No one else can help. You just need to focus. It's the energy of this world. How can anyone hear anything in the noise? I raised my hand. It trembled, and I hesitated before I rested it lightly on his chest. The flesh under my hand was cold and unyielding. Power radiated off him, reminding me of how outgunned I was. Jason blinked in surprise before he offered a slow nod of approval. Much better. Now, listen to my instructions, he murmured. I smiled and mimicked his slow, solemn nod. In the quiet space between heartbeats, I summoned the goddess's energy. It responded, hot and eager to rise to my defense. I channeled it down my arm and slammed it into the vampire, who flew backward under the force of a river of pure power. Jason's eyes widened in shock and fury. I didn't waste time bolting for the graveyard fence. If I cleared it before the vampire, or the spirits caught me, we might live to see the dawn. Thanks so much for listening. As the shadows grow longer and Halloween draws closer, we will continue to unravel this tale of danger and desire. If you can't wait for tomorrow's chapter, you can follow me on my Ream subscription for free and unlock the full story right now. But if you prefer the suspense of waiting, join me again tomorrow for the next chapter. Until then, remember, the fate of humanity and a single heart hangs in the balance. Tomorrow, we venture